4 men were considered for the role of Tony Soprano. One of them had never acted a single day in his life. One of them saw the character in a completely different way. One of them came so close that the showrunner rewrote another role just to keep him in the show. And the fourth walked out of his own audition in the middle of it.
I'm not doing it right. If you want me to come back, I'll come back and do it differently.
He left in the middle of the first audition, walked out, doing his Van Morrison thing.
He left the room, walked down the street, and disappeared. And yet, against every possible odd, he became Tony Soprano, the character that launched what we now call prestige television, the anti-hero that every great drama series after it spent years trying to copy.
Because I basically like to have a slightly adversarial, is that the word? Relationship with them, but I think they're unbelievable. I mean, I sit there and read it and just go, Jesus Christ, it's so goddamn smart.
Walter White would not have existed without Tony Soprano. Bryan Cranston. This is the story of the 4 men who almost played one of the greatest characters in television history. And how one scene from a 1993 Quentin Tarantino film and one audition held in a private garage in New Jersey changed what American TV was allowed to be.
I was amazed. I mean, I was amazed at the response. I don't think any of us thought that many people would watch the show in the beginning. It was a bunch of lunatics from New Jersey, and apparently we hit some kind of chord.
To understand why the casting of Tony Soprano became a genuine crisis, you need to understand what this show actually was before anyone had seen a frame of it. CBS passed on the project. Fox passed on the project. 2 of the biggest networks in American television looked at the premise and said no. HBO said yes, and the casting had to be right from the start.
My mother was sort of the model for Olivia Soprano. And I used to tell people stories about my mother and the things my mother said and did. And everyone I knew, my wife, first of all, said, someday you have to write about her because she's hysterical. Yeah, funny. She was hysterical, but she was also hysterically funny.
A New Jersey mob boss in therapy, trying to be a good father to his children, while ordering murders to protect his business. That premise only works, it only holds together, if the audience believes the man at the center of it. Miscast Tony Soprano, and there is no show.
Any actor I work with, I see the character, and then I see the actor working on that moment, and it's just part of what goes on. Jim was never anything other than Tony.
David Chase had a very specific idea of who Tony Soprano needed to be. The right person comes in, and it all works. David Chase, Vanity Fair. Someone who could be violent and genuinely vulnerable inside the exact same scene. Someone the audience would root for even when they knew they absolutely shouldn't.
He's got that face, he's got that intelligence, he's got those feelings, and they're right there. So despite the fact that he never says one true thing.
What Chase didn't fully know yet was that the right person was already sitting in a waiting room somewhere. But before we get to him, there are 3 other men to talk about. Each one of them tells a different story about what The Sopranos almost was. And one of them, Chase wanted so desperately that he invented an entirely new character from scratch just to keep him in the show. David Chase's very first instinct for the role of Tony Soprano was not an actor at all. His name was Steven Van Zandt, Little Stevie, from Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band, a man who had absolutely zero acting experience before this moment.
I've heard a demo record of his called The Lost Boys, and that's the sound I was trying to go for. And so he was just he was the perfect guy in so many ways. And he wrote a song for the movie too.
He was very, very funny and magnetic. I said that guy has got to be in the show. David Chase, Vanity Fair. Van Zandt came in for the audition, and in the waiting room on the way inside, he saw someone sitting there. That someone was James Gandolfini, a name that meant almost nothing to anyone in 1997.
Like literally 14, 16 hours a day. Now I know why he goes crazy. You know?
Right. Have you become very close to James Gandolfini?
Yeah, we all became very close.
Do you hang out with the cast members?
Occasionally, yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Van Zandt walked up to the casting director and said, that man outside, he would make a terrific Tony Soprano.
He said, I want you in the show. And I said to him, I got to tell you the truth. I feel a little bit weird taking another actor's role, because these guys work their whole lives.
Right.
They go to school, So once I said that to David about taking an actor's job, he said, you know what, I'll write you in a part so you're not taking anybody's job.
Chase wrote Van Zandt, a character that didn't exist yet. His name was Silvio Dante. Van Zandt spent 6 full seasons playing the man he had refused to replace. Think about what zero acting experience actually means for a scene like this one. No technique, no control, no training to fall back on. Van Zandt understood that. He made the right call, and he knew the role wasn't his to take. But the man he pointed to in that waiting room almost didn't stay long enough to finish the audition. And before we get to that story, there are 2 more names, because one of them came extremely, dangerously close. David Chase's official first choice for the role of Tony Soprano was an Australian-American actor named Anthony LaPaglia. LaPaglia was an established name, known primarily for playing authority figures, cops, federal agents, men who controlled rooms.
And think, what can I do with that? And if I thought I could do something interesting with it, I would do it. Not taking into consideration the rest of the film, and the director, the producers, the studio, all things that are key ingredients. They all have to work in order for the film to be successful. Right.
I saw him as more urbane than the average "hey how ya doing" bag of donuts kind of guy. Anthony LaPaglia, 2007. That single word, urbane, tells you almost everything you need to know about the problem. Tony Soprano is built from the ground up to be the opposite of urbane in every possible way. He is a man who has never once in his life been asked how he actually feels. And when a doctor finally asks, he genuinely doesn't know what to do with the question.
The thing that I loved that Jimmy knew was he needed an actor across from him that was strong. He knew that it couldn't be somebody who he could easily overpower.
An urbane Tony doesn't need therapy. And without the therapy, there is no show at all. LaPaglia also had a prior commitment, a Broadway production of Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge that he had already agreed to do. He chose the play over the role. He won a Tony Award on Broadway for that performance. LaPaglia's version of Tony would have been controlled, polished, and smooth. He would have held himself together in moments like this one. The moment Tony holds it together, you lose everything that makes him worth watching. First choice, gone. The project moved on to the next name on the list. Ray Liotta was also considered for the role, and declined entirely. He had no interest in repeating himself after Goodfellas, which is a deeply ironic choice, because The Sopranos is nothing like Goodfellas. One is a film about the romance and seduction of a life of crime. The other is about what happens when that romance is long over and you're still trapped inside it with no way out. The closest any single actor came to taking the role away from James Gandolfini was Michael Rispoli. Rispoli is the actor who eventually played Jackie Aprile Sr., the terminally ill mob boss who holds power in the first season.
And they picked me up and they brought me like Century City, one of those hotels over there.
Yeah, Century City. Exactly.
Yeah. And I walked across the street to HBO and we did the test there. And I saw Stevie Van Zandt. He went in a couple times, then he came out, and then he went home. But I saw Jimmy.
Chase liked Rispoli's audition so much, he rewrote the role of Jackie April to fit his exact age. The character was originally written for a significantly older man. Chase changed the entire role specifically because he didn't want to lose Rispoli from the project.
The next day, I flew back to St. George, Utah, and while I was there, my manager called me. And it would be like one day, she'd say, look, they really want you. And then by the evening, they go, they really want Jimmy. And then the next day, it was like, no, they're back with you. And the next day, it's like back with Jimmy. And then finally, she gives me...
What happened next in the show has a strange, almost literary quality to it. In the show, Tony replaced Jackie. In the casting, Gandolfini replaced Rispoli. Rispoli played the man that Gandolfini replaced. That is casting doing something that most people never even stop to notice.
It was just, to me, it was like already brilliant. They had the brilliance in it, and so many places you could go with it. So anyways, it goes to Jimmy. So I call up Jimmy and I say, congratulations, you're going to be great in this.
Van Zandt, no acting experience. La Paglia, wrong vision. Rispoli, very, very close. One man left. James Gandolfini in 1993 was genuinely nobody in the industry, a character actor with supporting parts in films that nobody remembered his name from. He had appeared in a handful of movies, mostly in smaller roles, mostly as a physical threat. One scene in a Tarantino film that almost no one paid attention to, almost no one. Susan Fitzgerald, the casting director for The Sopranos, saw that scene and said 3 words, "This is the guy." She sent the tape directly to David Chase, and Chase agreed to bring Gandolfini in to read for the role. What happened next at that audition became one of the most retold stories in the history of the show for a very specific reason. Gandolfini had read the script before coming in. He connected with it immediately.
A relationship with them, but I think they're unbelievable. I mean, I sit there and read it and just go, Jesus Christ, it's so goddamn smart. And I'm shocked by it all the time, and I'm very lucky to be in that position.
But he was certain they would end up casting, in his words, some Italian George Clooney. He came in anyway, sat down, started to read. And then, without warning, something went wrong in his head.
I'm not doing it right. If you want me to come back, I'll come back and do it differently.
He left in the middle of the first audition, walked out, doing his Van Morrison thing. I'm not doing this right, and left.
Mid-audition, he stopped completely, said, "This is shit, I gotta stop." He stood up, left the room, walked down the street, and disappeared entirely. Chase eventually got him back, not to a studio, not to an office, to his personal garage in New Jersey. It was pretty obvious that Jim had too much going on for this role to go with anyone else. David Chase, Vanity Fair. The Sopranos debuted on HBO on January the 10th, 1999. 21 Emmy Awards, the beginning of what we now call prestige television. James Gandolfini, the man who nearly walked out of the opportunity of his career, arrived on set for the first day of filming and spent the next 8 years building one of the most psychologically complex characters in the history of storytelling.
I feel like he never really knew how good he was, and I think that may have served him. Or served other people. Like, he was so humble in the face of how great he was.
Without Jim Gandolfini, there is no Sopranos, there is no Tony Soprano. David Chase, fresh air. And 4 men, a rock guitarist with no experience, a Broadway actor with a different vision, a character actor who came agonizingly close, and the man himself who nearly didn't show up, all played a part in bringing that to life. Let's talk about what Gandolfini actually built in this role, because it's very easy to call something a great performance without understanding what makes it technically extraordinary. He plays Tony in the pilot as a man who has never in his entire life been asked directly how he actually feels. Not once. Not by anyone.
Of what a good psychiatrist can do to really help someone and go in and
that specific gap between enormous external power and complete emotional illiteracy is the thing that makes Tony Soprano unlike almost any character who came before him. La Paglia would have made Tony smooth. Liotta would have made him cinematic. Rispoli would have made him genuinely dangerous from the very first scene. None of the 3 of them, not one, would have made him heartbreaking in the way that this performance is.
He's not that guy at all. Matter of fact, he would say to me, like before the season, let's go down and have dinner at Il Cortile, which I ran into you there one time. Let's go down to Murray Street. I want to start getting back into the swing of things, because he didn't hang around with those.
Gandolfini said in multiple interviews that he never once played Tony Soprano as a villain. He played him as a man who made a series of choices, and genuinely believed each time that he was justified in making them. That specific ability to hold violence and genuine human vulnerability inside the exact same breath is what made this performance impossible for anyone else to replicate. And without Tony Soprano, there is no Walter White, there is no Don Draper, there is no TV antihero as we understand the concept today. Bryan Cranston understood this better than most people who commented on it from the outside. Walter White would not have existed without Tony Soprano. Bryan Cranston. Van Zandt stepped aside and pointed to someone else instead. LaPaglia walked away because he saw the character as something entirely different. Rispoli came as close as it is possible to come without getting the part.
He was just perfect, and he had this, I don't know what you call it. He just had this ability to elicit people's love. It's really amazing.
And the man who walked out of his own audition without finishing it ended up reading for the role in a private garage in New Jersey and changed the entire course of American television from that point forward. The show that started with a man standing in his backyard watching a family of ducks ended with a cut to black that audiences are still debating and arguing about to this day.
So many things happened, you can go back and watch it again.
And the acting's absolutely insane. Gandolfini in his prime, Lorraine Bracco in her prime, Edie Falco, it steals it somehow. The mom steals it. There's times where she can...
Edie Falco.
4 men almost played Tony Soprano. Only one of them was right. Subscribe for more stories exactly like this one.
You always did.